So you can't get into Nantucket guest?
I can now, it's just taking.
Yeah, that may happen sometimes.
I just wanna get, Mass DOT. So everything's still. Me, but.
Our CPC meeting, we have a lot of issues.
I don't know what the issue is here. Okay.
We live?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We are, got a quorum at this point, so which is kind of a good thing at the moment. Of course, since we've got a few people on Zoom, we are going to do things by the method of roll call vote for everything. Oh, yay. So. In terms of people who are here at the moment, just please note in the affirmative, Wendy Hudson.
She's gone.
Did we lose her?
Yep.
Yeah, she said she had things to do. Okay, she was there for a minute.
Oh, she's.
Oh, there she is. Of course, I picked the one who's gonna come in and out at times. Wendy, hi. You're muted, dear.
Keep cutting out. Sorry to be not very online, but present.
I understand the hazards of not being in person. Believe me, I went through the same thing a few days ago. So we're just establishing form, so if you can just say present.
Yep, present.
Okay.
Present.
You could say past or future, but we'll take present for now. Abby D. Molina,
Present.
thank you. Brooke Moore,
I am present.
thank you. John Kitchener,
Present.
Dave Iverson,
Here.
Nat Lowell.
Here.
Christina Jelemy,
Here.
Joe Toppin.
Here.
And Barry Rector, I better be here. In terms of staff at the moment, Leslie Whitson Snell
Here.
and Megan Trudell.
Here.
Okay, that I think is the roll call of everyone who's floating around at the moment. You have an agenda before you at the moment. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, let's do the same process again. Wendy,
Aye.
thank you. Abby,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Joe. Chair votes aye as well too. So let's move along. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Hearing nothing. You have minutes from August 26, 2024. I would love, unless there's any errors or omissions, I'd love to take a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Roll call vote for approval. Wendy,
Aye.
Abby,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and the chair votes in the affirmative as well too. That brings us to the first thing. Mike is not with us tonight, so he is requesting two things. The first one is the Unified Planning Work Program for FY 24. It needs a reallocation request. Leslie?
Sure. The
Please.
UPWP budget was originally approved in May of 2023. Tasks change over time, so we need to modify the UPWP to reallocate the hours spent on each task, but the budget does not change.
So, any questions on this at all? If not, that will require an approval by this board. So let's do the process again, just because it's so much fun. Wendy?
Aye.
We have to make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion, yeah.
Motion at this
So
point.
moved. So
Second.
moved.
There we go, perfect. So Wendy,
Aye.
thank you. Abby,
Aye.
Brooke? John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I vote in the affirmative as well too. So on the K mini trucks, there was a letter that was sent off by the chair on that. to the state. And so they shot back some information to us and told us they were working on it further. Leslie, do you want to chime in on anything else on that?
I'll just say you all talked about this, I think at your last meeting, or it
Yep.
may have been 2 meetings ago. There was a concern that those types of vehicles would no longer be registered in Massachusetts. The commission sent a letter to the state. The energy coordinator also sent in a letter to the state. And they've made a determination now that those will continue to be registered, whether they're vehicles that you already own or if you purchase one. So that's good news.
Yep.
And they're going to keep researching.
What about the LS thing? I mean, that's still being registered, so are they gonna make them LS? Or, yeah, LS plate? Or is it still that part been backed out now?
I believe it's just a residential, or not residential, commercial or passenger vehicle plate.
Oh, that's better.
That's my understanding.
I was actually next to one the other day with no one around. It was a nice one. And it says 120 on the speedometer. I don't know. I know that doesn't mean anything.
I'm pretty sure
Is it
25,
kilometers?
I'm pretty sure 25 feels like 120.
Yeah, I just don't, I don't know what, I mean, they're 11 feet long and 4 feet wide, I measured.
So.
That's some small. So we should be happy about these things.
Yeah, and the state, and in the thing too, the state did say they're still continuing to work on.
Right.
Yeah.
More of the issues that may come up with these as well too, so we're just, again, at the
That's good.
start of the process.
Excellent.
Okay. Moving on. So there's 2 committees that are looking for people to sit on. Contract Review Committee for Human Services and the Harbor Plan Update Committee. I don't know if anyone on the board is interested about signing on board to either of those 2 committees. I know you're all busy people. So that will be, that will,
Good, thank you.
that's okay. It will-
Can there be an explanation of what they are and what they entail and what's the human services?
Do you want to? Go ahead.
You've been on that committee before, so you would
No,
probably.
I know of it very intimately
Yeah.
through other channels.
Oh, I
So,
thought you were on it
No.
at some point.
no, never been on it.
I have been on it.
Oh, Brooke,
Mr.
so
Chair.
yeah, please.
So the contract review committee, as it's set up now, reviews the applications from different local nonprofits and human services for grant under the $650,000 annual human services budget. So the job entails reading application, meeting with the applicants, and then traditionally members of the CRC are also pick different organizations to do a more in-depth site visit or interview process. And then they bring back the information they learned to the CRC in their deliberations. And then they do deliberations and decide on the allocation across all the applications of that funding. And then it's recommended to the select board as a select board sponsored warrant article that goes on the warrant in the spring, the allocation.
And Brooke, if you don't mind me chiming, they also meet weekly thereafter as well too, to continuously review the process with any of the applications that finally did get approved, correct? So it's continuous.
So it's not weekly, they're periodically, I would say it's more periodically as the grant recipients submit for reimbursement, they submit reports on their progress and meeting the goals that were identified in their application. So it's a matter of reviewing those requests for reimbursement and authorizing them, but it's not weekly once the process is. So it's fairly intensive through the fall. And then once the warrant is set, then it's more periodic after that.
Okay, thanks. And I just knew they continued to meet after the fact though, which is an important thing to throw in.
Mhm.
So. And you're good with the harbor plan, understanding what?
I think so. I mean, is that something that somebody's already been on recently, or is this a new appointee, or is this, I know the Harbor Plan has a group that's been meeting for somebody.
Trying to remember who was on it, Mary?
Yes, thank
So
you.
Mary Longacre was on.
Isn't the harbor plan committee like continues, like it doesn't like go away?
No.
It's sort of all the time and updates and comes and goes a little bit, right?
They may have
Sure
had a
it
little
does.
hiatus somewhere in between, but I think you're right. They
Pretty sure it's a
yeah.
continuous type of, you know,
I thought as things
Committee.
came up, they met. It's kind of my.
I think so, but it's like, doesn't just go away and get restarted, I don't think,
Mhm.
you know. Right now, there's a lot going on with that, I believe, so.
Okay, so
Okay.
we good?
Yeah,
For the explanation, so are both of these committees requiring somebody from the MPE and EDC to sit on them?
They are requesting.
Requesting.
They are requesting. All right, I don't see you all jumping to the plate at once. That's okay. That's fine. I know we're all busy people as well too, so this will be on the deck for next month because God knows how things may change. So we're gonna move on from those. But you're duly notified they are looking for an individual to do that. So the next thing is we have the town area plan, which is very exciting. They've been working very hard on it. I think what it's about, it still needs some refinement to it, Leslie. Do you wanna
Yeah.
chat for a few seconds above and beyond
Yeah,
that?
so we didn't invite anyone to come and talk about the plan tonight. They have represented that it's nearly complete, not 100% complete. But I thought it would be a good time for the commission members to look through it
Mhm.
and to go through staff with any suggestions or any ideas that you may think should have been included that weren't, or changes. So that way they're not left with the impression that they've brought forward a final plan and now we're asking for a bunch of additional work.
Yeah.
So, no actions needed right now, but for the next meeting.
Okay.
I think we should probably plan on having one of them here as a speaker.
I would agree, definitely. And just as Leslie said as well too, any comments that you may have on it, please make sure that you feed it directly either to Leslie or Megan. Do not CC everyone else. So if you need to sit down and talk with them about some certain things as well too, because I know that some of these issues may not be easily addressed through an email and might be able to be cleared up a little bit more rapidly, but again, this is an all hands on deck phenomena. You get to look at through all the different filters from all the different organizations that you sit on as well too, so anything's kind of fair game at the moment with that. But that will definitely, we'll get in deeper into that discussion next month. So just so you're aware. Next thing, Deputy Director of Planning position. I'm gonna just turn that right over to you, but that's a
This-
good thing.
This is just a quick update. We are planning on advertising that position and posting it. Hopefully this week, maybe next week. We have to coordinate that through HR. But that is moving ahead.
Yeah, so,
So, and we have the funding available. So, and we need to get that position filled.
Mr. Chair,
yeah, please.
is there any timeline from HR on it at all, or are you waiting for them, or where does that stand?
I'm not waiting for them. We had talked internally about, when would be a good time to advertise it and move forward. HR did ask me about it, a couple months ago, and there was, reasons why we didn't want to move forward at that time. But I just sent Amanda an email today saying that I want to move forward with that and get that posted, and I don't expect any delays from HR.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right, moving on at this point.
Just before we.
Yeah, no, please.
Leslie, is
yeah.
there a job description for that we could see?
Sure.
That'd be great.
So, favorite subject we're all going to chat about is a special town meeting and doing a recap of that. Whenever there's any kind of town meeting, be it annual or special, there are certain things you've all had an opportunity to comment on, so post-meeting, we do a recap on things. I'm not sure where I want to take this discussion. at the
Neither do I.
moment. Because I know there's probably a lot of mixed feelings out there about things, but we're past town meeting. We're definitely past town meeting, and I need you to keep focused on that concept as well too. So I don't know if we wanna just go through the articles, there wasn't a lot, or whether you just want to chime in.
What if I do a quick summary?
Why don't you do that?
Just a quick summary. So if you were all at town meeting, then you'll know that none of the short-term rental articles passed, except for one that was an amendment to the general bylaw, and I would call that one a very technical amendment. That was Article 5. The sewer articles did not pass. The zoning articles did not pass. And Article 16, which you're all familiar with, did pass with a vote of 286 in favor and 114 opposed. So there's your summary.
Yep. Go ahead.
Well, are there any lessons to be learned for us on Article 16? The last time it passed in May of 23, well, then it was Article 83, I guess, but it passed by 183 votes for it, but this time it was 286. So, it's got an awful lot more support from the voters than it had a year ago. And I just wonder what we should take away from that. And if the answer is nothing, that's fine, but I don't think it is. I think that's a big shift in how the voters feel about basically the same article. So, I'll tell you, maybe I should start with what it means for me. What it means for me is we really need to get on with getting our commission enabling legislation finished and on the docket, so everybody can see that we finished the work. It's a good body of work and it's moving forward in whatever shape or form that is. I guess it doesn't go to a town meeting, right? It goes directly to the state. So the sooner we can stand up and say it's done, here it is, and it's on its way to the state, I think the sooner the better. Because there's a frustration level out there that is significantly higher now than it was a year ago. So that's my takeaway. So I'm just wondering if anyone else has anything to take from it.
You're not obligated to answer.
Personally, I would like to see us get what we've decided and agreed upon and done as soon as possible. Her article should go to the state. The state house should review it as they have. But in the meantime, I think it's important that we put in what we think our changes should be and have a robust, or at least a well-advertised community engagement meeting about it, and then send it to the state. And the sooner the better. If we have to lock ourselves in a room for a few hours to get it done, I just think that it needs to get done, and that's my opinion. Thanks.
I don't know if I should bring this up now, because you're focusing on the enabling legislation. And I was gonna save this until we got to that line item. But I can bring it up now, just to give you some assurance at this point. So, do you want me to wait until the end? Because I do want to hear from you if there's other things.
Whatever, you're chair, whatever works for you.
No.
Well, I mean, it's one and the
I'm trying to
same
be,
kind
I'm
of.
trying to be respectful of you all, and the two of you are already hitting on something I'm gonna catch in just a few minutes here. Whether I do it now, but I really, we are gonna drill into the enabling legislation.
Okay, but let everyone else speak and
I think I'd like to kind of still hear from you, but I just wanna kind of make you feel rest assured that we're there. Good, right there. Yeah, Abby, go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
I'll defer Brooke. I saw you had your hand up first, Brooke, so you can go, then I'll go.
Oh, thanks.
You want me to go?
Yeah, Brooke, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Abby, go ahead.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna do a coin flip in a minute.
I tried. I agree with, I think, what, you know, my colleague said. I think we should kind of move on as soon as possible. I would just note, and this is one thing that we did bring up and has been addressed sooner, that the only concern I have with town meeting is that I don't necessarily think it's always representative of the entire community. So I think Dave brought up a good point that when presenting our version of the legislation, I just think we should make sure that we try to get it as broadly out there as possible, because I don't, you know, in the end, yes, John, like there were 100 more votes, but in the end, that's less than 3%, you know, it's 3% of the voting population in Nantucket. So I just think we should be mindful of making sure that we're including and making it accessible to as much people in the community as possible. So that would just be like my one thought, in addition to what everyone's saying. I think we should get whatever we're going to get out there, but I just think we should make a really good effort to try and build as much like access to everyone in the community so people can see it and understand it. So that would just be my 2 cents.
Thank you, Abby. Brooke?
I just have a question about the process of the change going through home rule versus directly from NP and EDC. What is the actual approval process? I didn't realize it was different. So,
It's very different, as a matter of fact. I'll let Leslie kind of deal with that as well too, but I just, in the nutshell, when we bring it before town meeting, it is a courtesy that we bring it before town meeting. It is not a requirement under which to do it. And so when we did it several years ago, we did it, say, here we are, and again, we'd like to hear what you gotta say. But it is not an absolute requirement for it to go through town meeting. And that's because we are a regional planning agency. So that's the nutshell of it at this point. With a regional planning agency, it goes directly to the state. And if you want to pick up on that.
Yeah, I'll just say, you know, as a regional planning agency, the planning commission is technically not part of the town government, and it's not part of, it's not subject to town meeting necessarily. So if the commission wants to draft their legislation and ask one of our legislators to submit it, or the governor to submit it, that's a path that they can do. They don't have to go through the home rule petition process.
So it bypasses having to go through the state house and be passed by the legislature. It can bypass that.
No,
No, it would still have to be approved by the legislature.
Yes.
It just wouldn't
Okay.
have to go to
Correct.
town meeting.
Right.
correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I echo what John says. I understand what Abby's saying regarding, you know, the population and who it's representing. I think what it does bring is that there's a lot of confusion and, I won't say misinformation. Some would say misinformation. I'm not saying that, but I'm just think that the education is such a big part. And I think the biggest takeaway that I got is that either people don't understand what we do, including myself sometimes, and that's really important to people, and people really need to understand who's responsible for what, because you know, I heard that, you know, the master plan, and now I'm understanding that we're not responsible for that master plan. So all that kind of stuff. And we're not doing ourselves any justice by, I think it personally, even though we don't need to go to town meeting, I think the optics would be really bad if we didn't. Just because the one thing I get taken away is that take away from what I hear, regardless of the nitty gritty of who's on what committee or anything, is that the MPC EDC doesn't listen to anybody else.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, that's the optics that's out there. And if I'm not saying that we have to, the reasons why we supposedly don't listen to them can be justified, but they're not out there and they're not public and they're not understanding. So, I mean, I've spoken to some of you, Nat has given me a great education of a lot of the reasons why things are the way that they are. But I'm just one person, and if you, as an organization or commission, if you want to continue down that road and not listen to just the fact that people don't understand you, then that's, you're gonna be seen that way, and I don't think that's a great way to be seen. And I think there should be transparency and understanding and education and people outreach and talking and public comment and bring people in that want to hear it, that want to understand, including myself. I've been on this board for 9 months and I barely understand anything. That's why I ask questions like,
Oh.
what's this committee? What's that? I wasn't here when it was originally written. There are a few changes that I personally would like to see, but I'm learning why certain things are the way that they are. But if I've been here 9 months and still don't understand it, there's a lot of other people out there, same thing. So that's my 2 cents.
I agree with Christina. I had a speech prepared in town meeting and was hoping to get up and, but 2 minutes. I mean, I had a 4-minute speech and I was like, what am I taking out? What am I missing? What has to go by the wayside? So, and I feel like that's the right place to bring everyone in. You had, what, 900 people from the start of the meeting and then come down to a little over under 400 by the time of voting. And it's just difficult to get the word out. So like, how do we do it? And I agree with what Dave's saying is like finalize it, but have everyone in the room that understands it, do our homework, complete it, make sure everything's proofed and perfect and stuff like that. But I think it needs to be a public outreach. I agree that I think if we go and just file this, that it's, no one's going to be trusting us. And I think that unless we are way to get out the message that, in some way, shape or form, why this is the right way to do it. But I feel like I don't want, we're being accused of backdoor deals here and there. And I'm like, and I know that.
I know, it's
But it's
unbelievable.
happening and
We're on
people are
like,
listening to it.
we're on TV more than,
I know, but
it's
that-
unbelievable.
but not
Like,
that they're watching. So I don't know
nobody's
what to tell
watching,
you.
that's
Like,
right, there's nobody here right now except
Yeah.
Tucker. This is, we're back to the old days, Mary used
And
to
it's
come,
Chris
there's
O'Neill, she's not
nobody
trying
there.
to help. No,
We're-
I'm joking, no, I'm joking.
Hey,
No,
That was-
Tucker knows me.
No, we only let one person. in.
No, but I going back, but I just think that Christina and Dave have really
Yeah.
good points, and I'm in that same camp. as
Yeah.
you.
Well, I'm gonna walk away with a different take.
Brooke?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Brooke, I'll let you go.
Okay, I think we sort of, well, in a way, we sort of morphed into the next agenda item a little bit, so I just, but I think a couple things are important to remember. The opportunity, if once I believe we should continue to work on a version that completes the work that, I'm getting to be involved in now that you guys have been working hard on. And I do have some different opinions about things than where you've come from. And that may cause us to take a little bit more time. But the other thing is that doing some outreach beforehand and then going to town meeting, the structure of town meeting is that the sponsor gets 5 minutes. And while 5 minutes is not a long time, it's longer than 2 minutes. So I think it is an opportunity to recap any public outreach that we do after we're done, before we, get to town meeting. And I also want to offer the opportunity to take some time at a select board meeting to present this proposal when it's finalized and explain what the NP&EDC it does, because I think while no one comes to more of the satellite board and commission meeting, people do tend to watch the select board meetings either live or on review. And the recordings are indexed so that, you can do outreach and link to a presentation that's done at the select board meeting and have someone go straight to that section of the recording. So it's an outreach opportunity. So I think we should finish the work and then do that outreach.
Glad you let her talk before me, because
I've
she said what I wanted to say way better than me.
I've got something I want to say.
That's exactly
too at this
right.
Point, but I'm holding my comments, so.
So I'd like to speak after Brooke, that was really good on this whole outreach thing, Barry. So let's say, and I'm gonna bring up the land bank just for a second, not in any negativeness or positiveness or any ness of anything, right? Let's go back to Ken Murphy's article, right? When anything happens with the land bank, with one little article, we've got stickers, signs, ads, paper, full page, everything gets really going like a campaign for office, like it's big. We don't do anything. We don't do a thing. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, Leslie, I'm not questioning anything. It's the structure of this commission that creates, we don't have a budget to hire a PR firm to do, I don't know, stuff wherever that everybody can read and see. And this is what's wrong with when we took the DPW off, right, Leslie? That's the last time we sent something to this. No, there was something else in that time slot somewhere. I just can't remember what it was. But I know we took the DPW off in like 10 years ago or so,
Yeah,
something like
about right.
that. And there was a couple of comments at town meeting. There's a few, but we had an explanation why we were doing it. We weren't taking them off the commission as sort of a contributing member, the ex officio, however we want to call it. But the vote part was removed because of the number and because of lack of attendance, confusion, who's doing it. Like there was a lot of things going on at that time, and it did make sense. The substance of what we're doing now, though, is way different than removing the DPW. Okay. Right. But what's changed is the activism is so much more focused on the things that the people don't know we do or don't do, so big that you would think we were changing zoning on Nantucket, like the whole island, like the NPDC is doing it, like something really big, the way it gets talked about. And it's really not at all. And I think Brooke's point about the select board meeting or a joint meeting or something that everybody's watching, I think that's a good idea.
Can I tag for that 1 second?
Yeah.
I think also, the, land farm house, go to yacht clubs.
Yeah.
And, Westmore and like, I mean, I had a client this summer saying, hey, like traffic and all the stuff, will you guys come forward? And so I reached out to Dave and they said, let's do this. And they never got back to us, but I think we kind of need to go to the people. And I think that you're saying we'd never do this, but that's the other problem now, we're not doing things and we need to modernize, and that's what we're getting.
But so how do we do that though? Do we have to like,
I think we go to the people.
what? No. Who pays for it? Like, in
Oh,
other words,
right,
if
right,
we,
right.
you know what I'm just saying, like a campaign we can't do it ourselves. I'm not doing it in between service calls, Joe. Somebody's doing this. Somebody professional will be doing it.
No, I think.
You know what I mean?
Can we not get into the nitty gritty of that?
No,
right now
but
and
I'm just saying, it's
kinda
not that
stay
easy
at
for
it?
us to do that.
No,
you know?
I appreciate what
No,
you're
no, I
saying.
get it. No,
I appreciate it, but you brought something up and now you're trying to problem solve it right at this
No,
moment. and I'm-
well, okay,
Yeah, okay.
I get what you're saying.
But-
But did you, yeah, I see that too. We all said,
Anything
I
more?
mean, I'm fine for now. I'm gonna say something probably afterwards, but go ahead.
yeah, so am I. Wendy? You get 2 minutes.
Did you say my name, Barry? Sorry.
Yes,
Thank
I
you,
did.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I just
ma'am.
wanted to, just quickly to move along, like I want to underscore that I'd like to see us be more responsive to, the will of the people, to John and Christina's point. I do think we've had PR. I was going to mention, Jenny Garneau and Rima Sherry in the past have helped us. I want to say, like, we need this to be moving forward. I'm embarrassed that we didn't have our own thing up in front of us, in front of the people at special town meeting. That would have been great. We need to move faster on this. It's taking too long, and we need to get that master plan rolling. I know that it's waiting on a lot of area plans, but the people are rightfully looking for us to do a little bit more than just keep talking about this in circles. So those are my 2 cents.
I'm gonna have you clarify the town, yeah.
Okay, yeah, Wendy, the master plan is moving forward right now. We have a
Well,
contract.
I'm
What?
sorry. I know that there is things, but the public doesn't know it. I wasn't very clear on that, just to the point that everyone's making that the public isn't, clear on what's going on. They're looking to us, but maybe wrongly. So
Just along
maybe
the,
the select board meeting, as Brooke said, maybe that would help. But
I'm actually giving an update to the select board at one of their October meetings. I just talked with the town manager about it last week on the master plan. I think we're going to invite the consultant to come to that meeting as well. And I'm trying to find money in our budget to bolster the community outreach for that. So working on it.
Abby, go ahead. Sorry, you're all set.
Well, I just wanted to note, like, the master plan is a good thing to bring up, but also, like, this came up on the July 8th meeting, and Judy Barrett gave, like, a fantastic presentation, and to some of the other people, no one came. Like, she was there for questions, she walked through the
That's
timeline.
true.
It was very
Yeah.
detailed, and people didn't come. So I think, again, kind of going back to underscore what everyone else is saying, I think we just need broader outreach. I don't think it's that we're not doing it. I think it's that whatever we're doing just isn't necessarily being, accessed the way it should be. And like Joe was spitballing with like ideas, like I think we just need to get it out to like a broader group of people, because people think like, oh, it's so secretive and like no one knows what's going on with the master plan, but it's not for like lack of trying. Like I was at that meeting, her presentation was fantastic, and she was there for questions, and literally no one was there. So it's like, people can say no one's telling us what's going on with the master plan, but they are. It's just like people didn't come. So I think, so Wendy, your point is a good one. It's just like maybe we just need to rethink how we can get it out there so people understand like what is actually going on, That's just my 2 cents again.
Okay.
Well, you're completely right that nobody showed up at our update meeting. And I think that currently, I've talked to Leslie, I've talked to Judy Barrett, we are working on a robust public outreach plan that is going to involve multiple opportunities for the community to get involved. So we are right there. I think Judy's.
If I can just insert real quick, she's already doing outreach. She's meeting with
Some,
lots of
but
different groups
yeah.
and individuals. I gave her a list of probably 100 people from different organizations. So she's sort of at that part right now, not the broader public, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah, it is close. Is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
So. Okay. All right.
You go and then I'll go
Can I
after
just
you.
ask-
I'm
can I just-
patiently waiting here too for you guys.
Can I just say something with what Dave just brought up? So
Stay on topic though.
yeah, well, it's hard to do because it's all blended
I know,
in.
there's
That's
a lot-
the biggest problem. So when we
I
had,
disagree.
when we went through the whole 2009, when we had an article for zoning, for example, and it would say in the warrant, consistent with master plan, and area plans have a zoning element in some, depending on where it is. Okay, the Surfside thing, I couldn't, there's so much Surfside, I couldn't believe the way that was discussed at town meeting, but anyway. Surfside's really big, and it was supposed to get bigger, but then we made it a little less. So anyway, so the build out analysis. Traffic. When we talk, the meat and potatoes right now, today, is different than it was 15 years ago. It's different, and it's hard to talk about this. You certainly can't talk about this at town meeting. You'd never be able to do it. But when I explain to people how much zoning we changed, the RC stuff, they don't have any idea what I'm talking about. And it was done at town meeting. Every zoning change was a 2/3 majority. This new thing is a whole different animal. Forget that. So we've already done so much stuff in that time frame. it's like we're starting from scratch now and no one knows we've done anything, because all they see is cars and people and more building. Well, we're rebuilding Nantucket more than we're building new. I mean, it's new, but it's on a lot that already had development. So that kind of conversation, Judy Barrett gets that stuff. And it's gonna be, I just want to be able to do this outreach explanation stuff in a forum that there's people paying attention. The media has to be there. I think it needs to be a joint meeting with the select board and maybe even the HDC too, and planning. You have to have that conversation in a group, or it goes away. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't get enough traction to talk about that, because there's so many things involved. When that statement was made at town meeting about planning isn't, zoning isn't planning, I was, that's what got me all off track and lost my mind at town meeting. And I do admit that, but that drove me crazy because of all the stuff I'm talking about right now. How much planning we've done with zoning changes, unbelievable.
Mhm.
And it has not made more development. It's made less.
Mhm.
But again, to explain that, I mean, it's hard. And so we are the scapegoat commission, okay? And we have to find a way to get past that in the future. And I just don't know how we're gonna do it, because the way things work now is not like it was before
Mhm.
Zoom, before YouTube, before all the different instantaneous media. So I still feel, and I used to say this to Andrew, a zoning map of the old days and now, and how much open space, the ground cover. I know we're not supposed to talk about that, but that was a great one by Joe Mocklinger, I think, who came up with that idea. I think it's like 1.8%. And if we start talking about how preserved Nantucket really is, it can quell all of these things. The false beliefs that we're making more building or making it easy to build, adding more people, adding more cars. And it's like, when I watched Brian give his thing the other night on the budget stuff, and I saw that car list with the excise taxes and all that money that comes from those cars that are parked inside garages for 9 months a year. No one's complaining about that, are they? So there's good and there's bad, and there's that 2 months, and then we have 10. And it's a tough conversation to have, because we are the focus of the criticism somehow. And that's why I think Brooks' mindset is right on the money on this whole thing, to have a more of a joint type meeting process.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry.
So I think one thing that, Nat, maybe you need to be careful of or clear on is what hat you're wearing when you say like we zoning and that, because there's the planning board
Right.
and then there's NPEDC. So
Yeah.
when you mix them, everybody else is gonna mix them.
Thank you.
Well, they're all doing it, so you gotta
So,
talk
but-
about it.
So that's
Thank
just
you.
one thing for explanation, and then to get back on topic, because what we originally started talking about is what changes we're making.
Mhm.
And the outreach, so, outreach can go a lot of different places, but if we're gonna talk about just the changes, or are we gonna talk about educating people on what NP and EDC is versus what the planning board is, like, that's all needs to be vetted out. I'm not saying one way or the other. And then the last point that I just wanted to make was, because it's taken so long, 2 years, to come up with the mission, vision, and things, you have a different board now, and as Brooke said, she has some new ideas, I have some new ideas, John has some new ideas. And so that's one reason why it has to be finalized soon, because you're just gonna continue to have people revolving. So kind of back to Dave's and John's first point, let's stay focused, maybe have a work group meeting, which is specifically and only designed for hashing it out again.
Yeah.
And get that done, so then we can move on to the outreach.
We do have a member of the public their hand raised, and I know you can't see it on this screen, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I wanna limit right now, this is really a board thing, so I want to limit that. I may entertain bringing in the public. on this, but I really want I want us to stay on focus at the moment. Okay? So I thank you, and just remind me again. Anyone else? Town meeting. I'm confused. I'm disappointed. I am a little bit enraged at certain things. I have to question you all. When you keep repeating information and it is not taken at what the face value is, what do you do? What do you do? And I'm going to give you the perfect example. Master plan keeps getting assigned by groups of individuals that it is the domain of the NP and EDC. I will tell you, as one person sitting on this board, every time it comes up, I will correct that. Don't know how many times you have to say the same thing. Okay? To the same people. This is even the bigger problem. So it's generally either A, they haven't gotten the message and aren't asking the right questions, or B, there's other things going on. There are other things going on. I'm sorry, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Okay? I don't even know where to start unpacking town meeting at this point. When I hear things like, oh, affordable housing, I am the biggest fan of affordable housing. Could you put it elsewhere, please? Where? Where? For God's sake, where? These opportunities as a town come up rarely. We are trying to do the best thing, but when it's like, we're not going to vote for affordable housing because we don't like it there. I'm sorry. I don't even know how to begin to unpack that. Where's it supposed to go? Do you have an idea of where it's supposed to? No, just, and so it makes me question, what's the real message I'm listening to at that point? Transportation. The island's a mess. It's loaded with traffic at this point. Well, there is natural growth, but the other thing that doesn't fail me either is a number of transportation projects that have been brought forward at this point have either been shot down by a board, or more importantly, when they get to the ballot, like, oh yeah, no, it's probably, I don't want to spend money on that. No, negative. And now you're left with, okay, all the work, time, and energy that went into that, all for naught. And I get it, money's tight, but you can't have both things coexist. All right, if you want to say no to it, fine, I'm good with that, but find me the funding source to be able to correct the situation. All right, if the situation is not correctable, it's like New England weather. Let's keep complaining about it, but it doesn't do anything. So this is part of the frustration I'm dealing with. When I look at town meeting right now, and even with this, that represents 2% of the entire population of Nantucket who made decisions. And now I gotta start really thinking about what that 2% is. And even if I want to be a little ginger here at the moment, but as I begin to even peel back that 2%, what I see in that 2% is not necessarily what I would call a broad representation of Nantucket. I need to be a little politically correct here, but I don't see that broad representation happening. So again, I think every one of our meetings is televised. It is out there. You can replay that meeting at 3 a.m. in the morning if you want to. So to suggest in any way, shape, or form that things are happening behind closed doors, I don't think on this end. Town government is like that. It's forced to almost have to be out there and be transparent. Public entity groups, that's a whole other thing altogether. They're not held to the same accountability that town government is. I mean, I'm fine bringing this forward, but I'm not necessarily fine unpacking the whole system again and spending more time on doing complete revisions. Because as we've identified, we're gonna be here forever. I think we've spent a lot of time on it. Personally, I would say we've spent an inordinate amount of time on it. That's why we're moving ahead. I'm, you know, having sat on this commission, I'm gonna say, I'm sorry it has taken that long. But you see when I'm taking over the reins as well too, that I'm trying to move this thing along so that we come to conclusion with it. And that's what we're gonna cover when we get to the legislative part. It's hung out there too long. It's time to move ahead. But if you want to keep reinventing the wheel, then, you know, that's fine, but I want to hear that from you all. I'm fine with getting out to the public. I have no problem whatsoever getting out to the public. What I am not fine about is getting out to the public and hearing levels of misinformation that's out there, almost sometimes outright lies about things, because it doesn't necessarily fit what people want to have happen. So I'm sorry, I know this is an uncomfortable conversation. I get it. But I know a number of you too are feeling that same thing a little bit as well. So I am gonna push the 800-pound gorilla into the room for a minute, and let's start to unpack it. Because I think we are legitimately trying to do all of these things. I think we're trying damn hard. But not everyone wants that to happen. Not everyone feels as though that's an important way to deal with things. I got it? But after this town meeting too, I really had to almost walk out and do reality checks when I was off island this weekend. And I guess I was kind of surprised, but not too much about what I heard as well too. Politics nowadays is a whole different ballgame. It really is. It's not where we were 15 years ago. It's not where we were 20 years ago. And I think you need to incorporate that into your decision bases when you're doing stuff. I mean, to this day, I'll still always be a big fan of moving it out into the public, but I've learned to listen with slightly different ears as well, too. I think you have to be attentive. You do have to listen. And I know sitting on the planning board, there are times where people were, you know, especially when I chair it, there are times we'd be, especially on a new project, would be 3-4 hours into one project. But there was a number of public there. I always found that it was best to let everyone in the public speak. I know some of my commissioners didn't like me in the end, but that's okay. It's important to do that because I've also found too, when I listen at times, someone may hit on something I have never thought about before. Oh my God, what a great concept. We need to be attentive to that, but you also have to pay attention as well too about what's being said and not be afraid to confront some of these things. Like I said, the biggest thing one of the biggest things that made me hang my head is when I heard about affordable housing. It's great till we put it somewhere elsewhere. You know, these kind of things, all I'm saying to you is that you have to refocus the dynamic of what's available and what you have for resources. I'm gonna, you know, this is why it's a broad group of individuals, but I think to not address some of these things or not say something is just as much of a folly. Okay, you need to talk about some of these things as well. I think it, you know, again, I'm not even going to say that right now. Just please, I'm asking you to listen and to hear what's going on, but don't be afraid to confront it either. And I feel a little bad about town meeting because I know I was ready to say something as well too, and that kind of got cut a little short. I was amazed at how much time tracked on it, 1/2 hour. Whereas most of the other things that were out there were much longer than that. It's just at the end of the night, people wanted to go home. Well, whatever.
It's all timing, yeah.
It is all timing, but you know.
That's always how it is.
But I understand, but the biggest problem I'm having is that when we confront these issues, they are addressed, they are brought forward, but there's never an acknowledgement of the fact, oh, yeah, well, maybe there is some credence to what's going on here. So the same retorts get replayed in the process. I don't know how to deal with that. But what does disturb me is that when those retorts are not necessarily based in factual information. Because if you want to hit on a subject, I'm happy to provide you with the facts. If they are not valid facts, then you have every right to confront me with it. But I will tell you, yeah, I mean, no, I'm gonna stop right here. Actually, I'm not, long range planning, I kept hearing that as well too.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with enabling legislation for how long? How far do you think the enabling legislation is gonna put us into the future when we do this?
It's not gonna change anything. It's gonna be the same as we're dealing with now.
No, I'm not,
You
that's
talk-
not.
what's the
I don't
question
think-
then?
I don't think you understand the question.
Okay,
All right, the last bit of enabling legislation which put us together lasted for 50 years worth of time
Oh,
with minor
all right,
changes.
I'm sorry. I
Okay.
understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying to you is, I think as this commission has been drafting things, we've had an eye toward that future. I don't think this is, I would challenge anyone who says by the time this is done, that this is gonna be like a 1 or 2 year type process. There might be little minor tweaks, but this is a major
No,
adjustment.
I agree with that. I
It's a
don't think it's
major
taken,
adjustment
I
to the way-
don't think it's taken too long.
All I'm saying
If
to
there
you
was
is,
no other issue going on, we would not be
Matt,
talking
let me
about
finish
that.
though, let me finish. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to say to you is that our eyes, it's taken a while too, because our eyes have been turned toward it, and I think a lot of the things that we have discussed have not been lightly entertained, they've been thoroughly vetted through a number of different individuals on this. And as I said too, I don't view this enabling legislation as a short-term thing.
No.
It's something meant to carry us into the future,
Yeah.
as well as it's not the same static thing of what we are today. By virtue of some of the things that we have put in place, I think you are winding up with a far more robust commission than what you've had before. It will encompass a lot more of other things than just strictly land use. We're incorporating a lot of what I would call human elements into it as well too, by putting things like the Cultural Council, Chamber of Commerce into that mix where we've never done that before. We've certainly welcomed people who will always continue to do that. I think that's one of the other things that was done very well, was to bring, certain town entities and certain town managers and stuff in to begin to help educate us and bring us up to speed on things. We'll always continue to do that. Our door continues to remain open. Anyone who suggests otherwise, I'm flabbergasted, because it won't be happening on this watch. I'm open to listening. I really am. And we need to always be willing to listen. I think we do. I'm troubled though when people say we don't listen. I am. That to me is kind of a convenient soundbite. So I don't know, I'm baffled as to what else you can do besides putting yourself out there, televising the bloody thing, telling people, sure, come on in. But anyways.
So Barry, I sort of have an answer or a part of an answer to that question. What else can we do? Do you want me to hold that until we get to the next section?
If you're wanting to deal with the enabling legislation, I'm gonna ask you to hold it. Okay, we're really just kind of recapping town meeting.
Yeah.
And again.
Okay,
If-
well, actually, it's a little broader than the enabling legislation, so let me just make a comment. if I
Let's
may.
see where it goes.
So, well, you've asked a couple of times, what can we do different? You're at a loss. I can only give you an example. If we go back to the first short-term rental work group, we had a professional moderator. We don't need to go into that.
Yeah.
But one of the good things that she did was to organize 2 outreach webinars at different, obviously different times of the process. And did enough PR work to get people there. We had, on the first one, I think we had 130 people join the webinar. And on the second one, I think it was 150. It was those kind of numbers. They were the biggest numbers that we've ever seen for those kind of webinars. Now, but the way they were structured was in two parts. We let everybody, first of all, we broke into groups in the webinar. We let people say what they needed to say, and it's a bit like this. There was this group and this group. But then we brought them together and worked through then, well, what do you really want? And it worked really well, because what we got back wasn't just a load of it was a good set of recommendations for us to think about as we finalized the work group recommendations, and we listened to it, and it was extremely helpful, extremely helpful. It helped us put things on the table, and it helped us take things off the table. And I tell you, that that was a defining moment for me, that, you know what, there is a way to get large numbers of people on a wet Tuesday night to do this. And I think we should learn from that, because meeting once a month for a couple of hours is not going to do that. It's not, you know, we gotta, you know, doing something like that takes time to organize, but we should really look at that. And
The only, I'm sorry, you done?
I guess I am. Yeah.
No, please continue.
No, I'm just saying, I think we have to be open to doing stuff like that, even though it takes time.
I think, I'm probably gonna say to you, I think we've been open to it by virtue of the fact that, again, we allow public comment. There's no one we've turned away. We actually had a work group that happened with the enabling legislation as well too. Make no mistake. I would probably say to you, you can sing the praises of that whole thing with the short-term rentals. Except one thing doesn't fail me. It has failed twice. So as much
Barry,
as
that is not the point. The
Yeah,
point is, that is not the point.
I
that is not
understand
the
what
point.
I understand what you're saying about reaching out to the public. I get it. I understand about bringing in information. I understand about integrating that information. All good things. But I am a little challenged at this point to think that with all that still happening, by right, things should have come to a highly successful conclusion. Okay?
I don't think the two are connected.
I would firmly disagree, because all of that work was meant to get to an end objective. And twice now, the end objective.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, sorry.
I'm not sure what the purpose of this, but we've just spent 45 minutes
I know, and it's time to move
going
on.
around and round in circles. And I would prefer that we move on to the nuts and bolts of the enabling legislation, if you're open
Thank
for
you.
that. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a member of the public, still there?
Her hand's no longer raised.
Okay.
Oh, yes, it is.
I just want to, I want to see where this goes, please.
Megan Perry.
I was gonna make a comment, but it's pretty clear you guys don't want public comment tonight, so I'll just
No,
reserve
I-
it for
no,
another
no.
time. It's okay, I'll bring it up at
Just
another
called on
time.
you, Megan.
Megan, I just
You didn't
called
have to
on
say
you,
that.
so please.
Well, so, I mean, I don't want to drag out this conversation any longer than it's already been, because I had a couple comments on things that were said, so I'm happy to put it in writing and just send it off to you guys and not waste your time tonight with
You're not-
it. So thank you guys very
you're not-
much. I appreciate it.
You're really not wasting our time, please. I don't take that lightly. I.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure
please,
then.
please.
So I guess one of my first things I would say, just kind of recapping on your conversation, is just because people aren't physically in that trailer, don't think that people aren't paying attention and aren't trying to be involved. But it's, in all honesty, the public doesn't always feel welcome with this commission. So it's kind of tricky and hard to do that. And an example is town meeting itself, when there were commission members kind of saying things under their breath when people were speaking, maybe not so under their breath. That's not comfortable for the public to talk about things with this commission. And then in terms of zoning changes, most of the time the public looks to the boards who are making recommendations and suggesting a zoning change of some sort. And when you say this is just housekeeping, we need to do it, but the public might not fully understand the repercussions of a zoning change, then later when they realize it a year, 2 years later, and they try to address it, a lot of times people get hit with, well, it was voted on at town meeting and you let it go through. I think if there's a way to explain to people a little bit better what those zoning changes are going to mean for the future, that might be a little bit helpful for the public to understand, because not everybody is entrenched in the plus department and zoning and what changes mean and master plans, no master plans, how outdated they are or are not. And so it's just some better explanation for the general public is what I would recommend if you're looking for any kind of recommendations from the public, especially if you're looking for outreach suggestions. That might be something to do to help people understand, so they don't feel as though there's a lot of closed door things going on. So that was just my very quick comments on this last little bit, and I'll be interested to see what the rest of the conversation goes with. So thank you for taking that public comment.
Just one thing I'm gonna say to you, we tracked into zoning and I appreciate that, but boy, does that belong in the court of the planning board.
But it was, okay, never mind.
At
It's-
least
there's-
from what I'm
There's
hearing.
crossover. What I was trying to bring up was area plans it's a plan. Like,
Right.
the word plan needs to get fixed. There's, how many plans do we have? Like on 16, 18 on Nantucket going on right now? It's pretty hard to keep track of them all. So what I was trying to explain was the crossover. The master plan technically is under 4181D, but the area plan process is under this commission. And there are things that go into other things. That's all I'm trying to say. They cross over.
Right.
There may be the technical stuff comes out of the commission versus the board, but there's things that cross into the area plans with zoning, and especially with Surfside. I remember that like yesterday, and how that all was. There was 4 different sections of Surfside. That's why I brought it up. I wasn't saying it because I'm trying to make it confusing. I'm trying to explain the confusion.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So that,
Anyway.
Yeah. There's still confusion at times,
It's
but that's too, this is part of our job.
and the biggest elephant in the room, the 800-pound, whatever you're talking about, is we're not regulatory.
We're not.
And that is the sort of overhanging feeling that continues to get resonated in these discussions, whether it be town meeting, whether it be letters, etc., is we do not have regulatory authority at all. So
Correct.
that's the big one that drives me nuts.
Right.
Anyway.
We have to depend upon others to carry forward what we do. I'm gonna stop things here.
I just add one thing. Oh,
Quickly, please.
first off, to Miss Perry's comment, I went and apologized to Mary Leffrey. I went into her, at her work, said I was sorry. There was a member of the public that was heckling her. That's not the board I wanna be on, that's not anything I wanna be a part of. That's unnecessary, I get it. But then again, she also admitted that she came down intentionally trying to go over it, so it's kind of a catch-22, so. We need to be careful of that. The other part is, I'm trying to say for change, and I know what John was meaning, and it's not about SDRs, it was about how to reach out. And I'm talking about the e-bikes really quickly. I've gotten 40, 50 emails, information, so I'm just trying to say public outreach, so we can kind of do something different. Go to different places, go to the Civic League, be in front of them, make the presentation, answer their question at what 25 associations. There's gotta be different outreach, and that's why I'm just trying to say, what are the avenues we can deep dive into that to Brooke's point at a later date, but
I
I
agree.
definitely think we kind of need to reinvent ourselves and kind of move forward.
I agree. Okay. Let's move on. I'll wait for Nat for a second. We're just gonna do a quick pause here. Not that you're under the gun.
What happened?
I'm waiting for you. For what? Because we were just about.
Talking too much as it is.
Is that any different?
Okay,
Nat, if it was,
what happened? What was the question?
Nat, if it was really that bad, we would have closed the door and locked it, okay? But
So what
anyways,
happened?
Nothing, we're
No, we're
moving
just
to the
moving
next
to
topic.
enabling legislation.
Oh,
All right. So anyways,
and we did have that on the screen.
Yeah.
At town
so
meeting.
we're gonna
But-
move on.
Yeah, no.
So with the enabling legislation, where do I want to go? I think we've talked about a number of different things about where this is destined to, the process under which to do it. I hope you're all clear on that. We are so close now to the truth of putting the cap on this at the moment, it's not even funny. I have to apologize that things maybe got a little tied up in the process. This should have happened a few months ago. I know that's part of my thing too, because I got tied up for 2 months being hospitalized, but anyways, here we are. And so, this meeting is meant to put the capstone on things, to answer the final questions that are floating out there. Between now and next month, you will have the completed document in your hands with this. Next month, between now and next month, you will review. I'm asking you all to please review it, comment back to staff with anything. But this is pretty much now capping the process after this period of time. It's not really meant to go much longer. Okay?
So for point of clarification, you say make comments back to the staff, but nothing will be changed.
it depends upon what you're asking to be changed.
Well, I guess who's making that final decision?
Well, I guess the question is, all right, so maybe I am being a little naive. How much, I'm gonna ask you, what do you wanna change?
I mean, where we currently are now, I think with John and
I
Dave,
think you've seen all of this. Leslie has
Yeah.
done the production
All right,
on
all
this.
right,
I
yeah.
hope you understood that.
I still think we need a meeting focused on it.
I think we should need to sit down in a room.
Right, so the idea
And
is-
before we
We're
get
not ready
to
for
so
that yet.
finalize it, I really believe that Christina's right here, that we need to sit down in a room and all agree on it as a group and then have the draft. done.
Yeah.
Well,
Plus we have new voices, new perspectives.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear them.
Exactly.
Has her hand raised.
I'm sorry,
Brooke has her hand raised.
Brooke?
Yeah, hi. We spent a lot of time talking about the makeup of the membership and the appointment process.
Yep.
I would love to move past that to see if there's consensus on the remaining portions of this. And if there is, then we could schedule a meeting to go over the makeup and appointment process one last time, to make sure that we have considered all of, I don't want to go round and round on this, but my thinking has changed on one or two things, and I'd love one more opportunity to discuss it with the whole commission, that part of it. But I think it would be useful if we, determine whether there was consensus on the remaining portion.
Okay. Thank you. I'm probably just gonna say that I don't think there's a piece of this that hasn't gone through several months worth of discussion and vetting
Yeah.
in the process. So I don't think anything was a one and done. There's everything that's been brought before you at this point. I think it's taken a fairly good degree of time and discussion and vetting through the commission. All right?
Are-
If,
Well,
let me
Oh.
finish.
You gotta remember the public.
There's one online too.
Yeah, that's fine. So hold on. I'm not sure how I need to phrase this with you at this point. Are you all prepared at the moment to begin to tell me where and what we're going to cover? Okay? The objective here was with the belief that we're pretty close to where we need to be. Tonight, I'm hearing something very different, that the whole thing needs to be unpacked and readdressed. That's what I'm hearing. That's just me. Okay? So if we're gonna do it, then let's do it. Let's start the process again.
We don't need to start, we need to
But
continue.
okay, but,
Just
all
a
right,
few
so,
little-
but
little
you're
pieces.
asking with things just like Brooke said, with the groups that are assigned to this. I'm hearing not everyone's happy with it, and we need to unpack that part. With the vision and mission, I'm not hearing people aren't comfortable with that. We need to unpack that and revisit the whole thing. So I'm kind of confused. You had this before you last month as kind of a draft document, just so that you were able to see it all. So if that's the result of what was before you, let's start the process. Go ahead.
Okay.
I
What I think might be helpful and would also help move this along, even if there are aspects of it that people want to change or reopen for discussion between now and the next meeting, whatever that is, if it's the regular meeting or a special meeting, I would like to take what's in the document that's on the screen, along with anything new that comes up tonight, and get that in the proper format for either home rule petition or legislation. It's gonna be the same no matter what.
right.
And I think once it's taken out of this type of bulleted memo-y document and put into the proper format, I think even if there are changes, it might help guide that. Because this is kind of just a lot of ideas on paper to consider, but it's not.
Gotcha. Thank
I
you.
disagree a little bit on that. I think we need a dialogue piece before we get to that. A dialogue of this group, because Barry, I don't think it's as dramatic as starting again.
Okay.
I don't think it's that. I think it's looking at this, talking to one another so that we can perhaps come to, you know, perhaps you and I may have a different opinion on something, but if we sit down and talk about it, we can get to something in the middle or convince one another, you know, to keep getting to writing another document before we have that opportunity. I just don't think that's worthwhile. I think we're putting off the moment when we have a 3 or 4 hour session in the trailer or wherever it is to just go through it quickly and do what I just said. Thank you.
I agree with John. I don't think this is a rewrite. This is all of us sitting around the room with this document in our hand and going through it piece by piece by piece. You agree, we're good here, we're good here. And then there might be some small changes. I don't think there's gonna be structural changes, but this has been piece by piece. Some people have been here the whole time, some people haven't. We've had work groups, we've had this. I think it would be nice for us all to sit around a table, lock the doors, and just go through it for a couple hours and make sure we're all on the same page instead of having a draft and then people are like, oh, I'm not sure about this, I'm not sure about that. When we leave that room that day, the draft will be pretty close to the final document. And I think that we just need that final few hours as a group to go through it. And that's my opinion.
And, go ahead, sorry.
I agree with some of the stuff that Dave is saying, but I also, like, one thing I do is I track my hours. So if I'm here, no, I like my town, just CPC all the meetings, they're in my time book, and so I love it. So
Wow.
basically,
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And it's color coded.
Do you track the
Can you
Do you track the-
for us to see it one day?
How about the high school intersecting? Will you track the high school intersecting?
Anyways, no, so the point is that I basically looked at it and I've spent about 40 hours on this. So I think we're gonna have the meeting. I think there should be a history lesson of how we got to here or there.
Yeah.
Because Christina and Brooke and, you know, everyone is kind of coming new and fresh to this. Then I think that they can say, oh, well, that makes sense, and maybe that comment isn't necessary. But I agree with Dave. I think it's a tweak. I think it's a touch here or there.
All right.
I'm not looking.
We've got, yeah.
And I really
almost
appreciate
everything is
the
ready.
history lesson, because that
Yeah.
will explain, like, before everybody gets into defending their position, an explanation as to why and how it got to this
Mhm.
point.
And you and I have been trying for 2 months to have one, to sit down, and I'm glad to have, it. Yeah, so.
You know, because can I follow up on something,
Yeah.
Joe? Because, you know, Joe, when I went through this morning, there are the vision, the mission, the objectives, there's a lot of good stuff in there. But the 17 objectives,
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot. And if we're gonna keep 17, my two things I would suggest we need to do is prioritize them, because they're not all gonna be created equal. And then put some granularity behind them as to what we mean. And what are we going to do to achieve that? Because I think I'll say for myself, but I think for our community, to be able to back something up with an example of what you mean. For example, gather and maintain planning related data and monitor trends. Sounds great. Okay, how? And what we're gonna do it? I don't mean to answer that now. I'm just saying, when we're
There's
together,
ways to do
this
that.
is the kind of stuff, you know, would help us all, especially the new people, including me. Get to- Huh?
I didn't mean to exclude you, sorry.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, because
Thank-
we're all gonna have to defend it. You
Yeah.
know, we're gonna be in the public eye
Yeah.
explaining it, so we need to all understand it completely, thoroughly, on the same page.
Brooke, go ahead.
You're muted.
Yeah, no, I'm just finding the unmute button. My biggest concern in all of this is exactly what happened tonight when we asked for volunteers to be on CRC and the other meeting. That the way this is structured, we are asking people who are already committing a lot of time to be on boards and committees to commit more time to be on boards and committees. And we are drawing from a limited pool of candidates when we do it that way. And I just really want to have a robust conversation about that. Because I think it sets the community up to have even fewer people involved rather than more people involved, just by way of how people are appointed to this commission. And I think it's really important that we have that conversation before we solidify this membership and appointment process.
She's hitting on something that is a 21st, 20th century issue
Mhm.
that wasn't, and when these, I don't mean to interrupt Brooke if she's done talking. Leslie, and I don't even know if you can answer this question, but over time, like the Capcom is from here. You know, how did all these things get either a planning board person or a commission person? Where did that come from? Like the town charter? Has it been the select board? Has it been town manager, or a combination of all these different things? Because that's a really good question that she brought up. I was thinking about it today for a completely different reason though. About having an appointments from here on other commissions, but I won't go there. That's a different thing.
So,
But how did we have all this stuff attached? Like, who did that? When did that happen?
well, it happened over time.
100 years
Yeah.
ago. I mean,
Yes.
that's something that's been going on a long time, right?
As new committees are formed, like.
Yes,
the
that was the
coastal
next
resiliency
question. There's
advisory
new stuff.
All right, all right. Let
It's
her
been
finish,
added.
please.
Yep,
So the committees like CRAFT, for example, there was the cannabis review committee,
Yeah.
whatever they were called, like a lot of these things just come up as new emerging trends and issues come up. And the select board, whoever the appointing authority is, decides.
Yeah.
Which groups would
Mhm.
best be represented on these new committees, commissions, and that's.
some,
what it is.
but
So
some
it's-
dissolve
it
and some
evolves.
stay forever. And that's kind of like what I meant to say.
Yeah, it
But
just depends, though. A lot of these committees have asked us to come to the table. Strangely enough, in reformulating the committees, in reformulating what the commission looks like, some of these are going to disappear. You're actually gonna have them here before you as a group every month.
Oh,
Okay, I'm just saying, so there's this little turnabout that starts to happen.
well, there may be a way to get rid of. a
Let
few
me
things
finish.
then. That's a good point.
Let me finish. Some of these things that are on here, like the Nantucket area plan, town area plan, are just by virtue of the fact that
Yeah.
falls under our domain.
Yeah.
But, you know, and BPAC, again,
That's
something that
permanent.
we created.
Yeah.
You know? So there's really kind of, but as you look at that list, part of it, when I look at it, I see part of that being resolved through a newly reformulated commission. Okay, with them having a much more active voice than where it is right now, hopefully. Boy, a lot went on in just a few minutes. I'm trying to recap everything. That happens sometimes. A lot of information thrown at the same time. Here's part of my concern too, is y'all keep hearing from all of you, it's taken so long, it's taken so long, taken so long. I'm trying to be respectful of that process too. Okay, I'm trying to help us get to the end objective of where we need to be here, so. Pardon me a little bit, because I'm also trying to figure out where the balance sits between these two things. I think the whole key is here, of course, if there's. When I'm hearing you say, okay, we need to re-access all these different points, I was hoping that next month, between now and next month, when you have this, that we'd have all that together and ready to go for a final process. As opposed to, okay, we're gonna do this and then we're gonna take this piece out, we're gonna discuss it further. I'm sorry, I'm listening to two different stories happening and emerging at the same time. And so I'm trying to figure out what's the reconciliation for it. So if that is the will of what you all wanna do, then I think what I'm trying to think about the best way to ask how to accomplish that task. And whether that's a matter of if you get the doc, you know what? Let's finish up these little pieces tonight. It would be good just to finish, because these really are tiny little pieces. And then kind of revisit the whole thing, and as you're revisiting it, I may ask you to feed it back to staff right at that same moment about what it is you want to do. Okay, I'd like them to be the collective for it. Does that sound reasonable? Okay. So that we have a much better, again, if you can get it out in advance, we'll have a much better sense of what it is that we're gonna try to accomplish at this next meeting. Is that?
Well, for me, that's two different things still, you know, I'm looking for, this is kind of a subset of, this isn't public outreach, this is commission outreach.
Right.
Can we sit together and go through this and have a chance to talk about it together?
That's what I would, exactly.
So,
What we need to
But-
do.
So for point of clarification, you're asking to do that tonight, where some others have offered having, I mean, I agree, I think we all agree with you that it has to be done quickly.
Yeah.
And by the next month's meeting.
Yeah.
I would recommend, or even make a motion that we have a sub meeting that's just on this and that so that we can come prepared.
Yeah.
With exactly what we want to discuss. We get the history. We get the history and we go through.
Okay,
So if you want me to make a motion, I can do that.
all right, but hold that, can you hold that for a minute?
Mhm.
Thank you. You have no idea what's left. Hopefully you do have an idea of what's left.
Well, I've read the document about 16 times.
Now, I know you have, but what I'd like to try to do with you all, because there's really only two things we've got, right, Leslie?
There were
Or
a
is it
few
three?
things left up to discussion at the last meeting.
Yeah,
You get,
just
But it's-
just
it-
hold tight, just
Yeah.
hold tight, please. Go ahead.
One was the at-large members and who would be appointed.
Right,
that we covered, I think we got that. one
Nat?
down.
Nat, please.
We've talked about so many things today, my head's.
I know, I'm feeling the same way.
One was, I don't know that we put the housing question to bed.
No, we haven't.
Okay, so that's that. There was some discussion about adding a historic preservation type seat one way or another. I don't think there was real consensus on that. What else?
I thought pretty much it was a matter of, at least at this juncture, was sewing up the things that we really had not discussed, which was just making sure that we validated the fact that there were no term limits. You've all loosely discussed it. The fact that, I know there's a lot for me to start that processing again at this point. The fact that we're going to figure out who the vetting agency was for the at-large. And that was pretty much about it. Tucker, I promise I'll get to you, because I know what you want to talk about, okay? We tried to identify what was really left that we hadn't touched, not to say that we can't revisit it, but what was left untouched. Okay, and then revisit the whole thing at that moment. So that's what I was hoping to do with you all tonight. So it was really only about 2 items and then the broader scale of what you want to do with it from there.
But
Because-
The county for the appointment, I think is,
All right.
everybody's in favor of that now.
All right,
I
so
don't think there's any question about that.
So I guess I'll put my motion back
That
on
one.
the board so we can just get an answer, because I understand that you have that was your intention.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing that, yep, Tucker, let's.
Got his hand up.
I know he does. I know.
I know, I don't wanna lock him out.
There's another one online too that's not for some time.
All right. All right, so maybe that's not the idea.
So,
Let me abandon process. Do you mind if I go to the 2 of them?
no, that's fine.
Thank you.
Oh,
Tucker, thank you for your patience.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. And, I mean, I think as you know, I had, sent some thoughts by email earlier today. I don't know if it's necessary to read that here, but,
No.
yeah, I mean, mine, I'm just trying to figure out when is the appropriate time to give the input, given that you may have another meeting where it's more focused on the makeup, but as you know, my main concern, if you will, is around whom you're drawing on in terms of the housing representative on the board. And I just would strongly encourage the board to broaden the pool, if you will, for whom that could be. I know that the Nantucket Housing Authority has had the designated resident representative for a number of years, and there probably is good reason for that in history, but today, the Affordable Housing Trust is really the driving force around housing on Nantucket, and which is not to say that a representative of the Housing Authority could not ultimately be appointed as the housing representative if they so chose to raise their hand and want to be considered. But I think to not have the Affordable Housing Trust at the center of making that appointment would be or at least eligible to be to put up an appointee, a candidate for being appointed would just be, you'd be missing in a very important voice. I mean, the best analogy I can give would be, if the conservation or preservation representative on the commission were to be put forward by the Sconset Trust rather than the land bank. Like, the Sconset Trust is a wonderful organization. It does great work, but it has a very limited scope, and that is really the housing authority. The land bank has a wide purview over the entire island, and that's what the Affordable Housing Trust does today. So I can speak further, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that tonight.
So let me
We
just.
had this conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up too. Tucker, that conversation, we actually did descend into that conversation as we were.
Almost
choosing.
exactly what you just said.
Yeah,
too.
pretty much almost verbatim what you said.
Yeah.
The commission finally decided that that was the route they wanted to pursue. Doesn't mean people can't revisit things. Would it be easier? Do you want to do this by virtue of being here in person, or do you want to send something to Leslie to disseminate to us?
Well, I sent an email earlier.
I know you
today,
did,
but
but
I'm happy to come and if you're, it sounds like you're moving toward having a special meeting to talk about the makeup and other
think so.
aspects. I'd be happy to come back for that.
All right, we're gonna be talking probably about the whole thing one more time.
Yeah.
Is what I'm gathering. Okay, so, all right, so just, I don't know, you tell them how you want to dial him in. Okay. Thanks. Who else did you want?
Hi, Hillary. I'll just wait for it.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi, good evening. Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple comments. A lot of people do watch your meetings, just in terms of the engagement. I'm just looking at the the views, and it's regularly over 100 views on your recordings. There's, I think, 15 people watching on YouTube right now, and the meeting where you had to redo about your hiring decision had 666 views on YouTube. So there's a lot of people paying attention, even if they're not in the room with you. So I hope, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're doing well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. But just in terms of the public engagement, I feel like I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing that you really care about the public, you really want to include the public, you really want to hear what the public has to say. But you had 400 people come to a meeting to talk and listen to changes to the enabling legislation, and 286 of them voted to have directly elected members, to have, it's kind of a soft term limit of 9 years, and then that's 9 consecutive years, to have preservation added, many specific comments about preservation. And I don't know why that would be, like, I heard you say, well, those aren't the real representative, and that's not really something we have to pay attention to. Nat Lowell, the vice chair, gave a long article to the Inquirer and Mirror, the town newspaper of record, that said exactly that. And I just wonder, like, why isn't that considered public input? Because I think it's quite direct public input, and it seems like you want to both include the public, but you actually don't. You actually just care about what the 11 people sitting on this commission have to say. So I would, I guess I would just like to hear you. I would like to say that so you hear it, because it really is saying two contradictory things at once. And regarding the mission, and the vision, which has also been part of this 2-year-long discussion you've been having, one of the things that I had always hoped that you would do, and I never understood why you didn't do it, would be to reach out to other directors of the state's other 12 planning agencies and invite them to come to talk to Nantucket, have public information sessions, even with folks that talk generally about regional planning, because I think part of the problem with getting consensus, even amongst yourselves, about this is this lack of conviction around really what the responsibility is. And I hear this a lot with comments about, we don't have any regulatory authority. So why is Hillary Rayport and her 211 petitioners and 286 people who voted at town meeting trying to change us? And the reason is because even though it doesn't matter if you're regulatory, you set a vision for Nantucket. And I think what we need is we need folks to come together around a vision for this island. And that is what this commission has always done. And out of that comes policy, and out of that comes, frankly, concessions that you need people to make because they've brought into that vision. So I think that is why this commission has been the focus of so much public interest, and that the public is telling you something. And I hope that you will try to hear it. Thank you.
I want to focus on what you said about the word concessions right now. That's why everybody stays for the STR stuff, because they don't want to make any concessions on their private property. Okay. And that's a meat and potato issue. Okay. This is why we've been 5 years or 4, whatever it is, with the STR thing. Talk about something that hasn't gotten anywhere and gone to the voters. That issue reminds me so much of the beach driving stuff in the 90s. It's unbelievable. The late 80s. When you go after people for real, and they read those documents and all the confusion about 8 stays, 9 stays, this time of year, and all of that, people just go crazy because they don't want to be bothered with all that. They want to just do what they want to do with their own property that they're paying so much money for, especially with our new wonderful insurance bills that we're getting for home insurance. That's like a new mortgage. So if this commission was regulatory, like Vineyard or like Cape Cod, I'm just using those two because they're around the corner, we would have, and we came forward with something that was drastic for reducing cars to come here. I mean, that's the big one that people really do believe that.
One car
But,
per household.
and I learned this year that people want to be on the boat themselves. I can tell you that. They might not other people to be on it, but they want to be on it. So that conversation has been going on for over 25 years. That is 1997, 98 that started. And I was on that committee too for the car limits. But anyway, the reason that, and I'm not saying 283 people don't matter. I'm not saying 211 signatures people don't matter.
Right.
But why did everybody get up? Not everybody, but how many? 300 and something people get up and leave? Because they weren't threatened by anything that had teeth after that. And that's why they leave. And it's the same with the old days with the building cap. The minute that meeting with that part of the warrant was done, I mean, it was like the whole section in the back left just got up at the same time. I'll never forget that. Okay. Wait till you see what happens with the Island Home. That'll give you a good snapshot of this community. I can tell you that. So I understand what Hillary's saying. It's easy to twist all these things around and make it like we don't care. Then all of a sudden we do care. It isn't that we don't care. It's not that I personally care about town meeting. I feel like Joe does with that. I'm stuck, okay, with the whole town meeting thing with this legislation because we are not capable personally to explain these changes in 2 minutes. In that forum is horrible for a public hearing. It just doesn't work. Okay. But, and this is the part bringing that DPW thing back up earlier. We're doing a whole bunch of different things here. So it's different than it was before with small changes. I want, and I firmly believe this, and if the people that mentored me were still alive, they'd be saying the same thing. You want the state to look at this composition and feel like this has been vetted and agreed on. You don't want this to be local infighting political stuff up there. I mean, we saw that. They see right through that because they have that going on in 351 other towns and cities. It's not like we're the only place. So, and in the comment about bringing I know that you've reached out to a lot of people. Andrew did the same thing, talking to the Franklin lady was here. What was her name? I can't remember that. And their problems were so much different than ours. I mean, it was unbelievable to listen to that woman talk that night. That was at 4FG, that meeting.
Yeah.
And so I still feel that going straight to the state is probably the right thing to do. Is there fallout that could happen? It's easy. We're like red meat. I mean, it's easy to go after the planning commission, even if you're sort of mischaracterizing it. It's easy to do. I personally think that if there was another state agency in the same situation on Nantucket, they'd be doing the same thing if it was controversial. So I think that I'm okay with going back to town meeting, and I'm okay with not. I'm kind of, that's what I am with this whole historic thing. I mean, I'm for like 3 different potential changes that could make that work. But again, if we don't agree, I mean, we've kind of proven it with the meetings with Hillary that were done, the 6 hours. If there's not gonna be agreement, I go back to that question you asked when she was here, when you invited her to this table, and you said, will you take no action on that article if we put the NHC on? And there wasn't really a clear answer. So if that is the case, then we're kind of almost forced to have this sort of debate at the State House. I just don't want that to happen. I just wish it could be clean, because I think some of the stuff we've done, it's a lot of what Hillary wants. Not everything, but a lot of it is. Reducing planning board members, getting rid of our own appointments. People still think we're appointing 11 people, by the way, just so you know. No, we're not, but that's what some people still think. So I like the county idea. I think that's a good one. I think we should have probably done that maybe a few years ago as a separate thing. But I am concerned with still back to the nuts and bolts of the planning commission's abilities versus the planning board. It's still confusing to the general public. Like, and I'm not criticizing the general public. I'm not saying people aren't paying attention. I'm just saying it's just true. I mean, when I walked out of town meeting the other night, I was with people that didn't support me, but they know me. And the one person said, Hillary doesn't want to change the planning commission. She wants to change the NPNEDC. I didn't even know what to say, but I heard it. And that's the truth. And it's hard to explain it. So that's, I mean, I know I'm talking a lot, but this is what is wrong. Like, I would love to go forward with we have to go forward with what we've done. We've got to clean up. I still have some disagreements with where we are with a couple of things I think we should look at, Barry, with the historic, some kind of something that has historic in it. We should do. I just think everyone should really look at that. And I think what we do will get approved if it was sent to this legislature, because it really does make a lot of sense. But at the same time, if there's going to be a continuous, disagreement here with that number of people, then it's going to continue. And I don't know what else to say about it. We're going to have that discussion with town council, form of government too. I mean, they're going to have a lot of discussion in the next 8 months that are going to make this look like nothing. So there you go.
We have, and we will continue.
Can I just follow up on one thing?
And I want to chime in as well, Taylor, so
So
let me go to Tucker first, and then I can come to you.
Feel bad about Tucker.
Do you mind?
We got to talk about that, but
Well,
I got to get home.
I know.
Still
I'm
have a
trying
motion.
to Tucker, go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, very briefly. I mean, this is for whatever it's worth in the outreach part of thing, like there's saying in advertising that you have to get in front of someone who's predisposed to do what you want 8 times before they do something. So a lot of outreach is, I mean, that's something we learned at the trust, the Affordable Housing Trust, and, still are working on that. So I do get, like, even when you're on the inside, you feel like, how could someone not know, like, what's happening? All of our meetings are zoomed and videoed and available. It is, and I do think there's a certain incumbent responsibility on the public to seek this stuff out and look at it. But I know when we were at the trust, we felt like we still have to do a better job, and, for whatever it's worth.
Yep.
I really, really apologize, but I'm taking that in terms of the housing item that I had written about, that really is probably gonna get discussed at a forthcoming meeting, or you.
When I get to make a motion, yes.
Are you?
I appreciate that. Well, no, it's.
Or are you intending to talk about it tonight? I will stay if it's tonight.
No.
But if it's not, I am fighting a prior obligation.
Do me a favor, though. I've asked Leslie to kind of keep you on tune, but will you check in with her as well, too?
For
And
sure.
you, of course, you'll see this online as well.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
I know you guys want to kind of move ahead, but it's good that we're having these discussions now.
Mm.
Okay? These things really do need to be brought up and talked about. John, go ahead.
Yeah, just following up on that. I mean, for me, I'm not gonna comment on should we go to town meeting or shouldn't we? All I would say is if we do a good job of getting this document finalized with more public outreach than we know how to do and send it to the state, and get it approved, that puts an end to this. But it has to be with the public outreach stuff, because if we don't do that and just send something, of course it's gonna keep coming up. But if we do it correctly and do some of the things David was talking about early on, I think sending it to the state is probably the only way we're gonna stop talking about this and start talking about these 17 objectives then, and how and what are we, what are we gonna do, in what order, how, who, because that's all the community really care about. Like, okay, what are you doing for me other than talking about your own organization and your own structure? And so.
He's right about that.
Huh?
You're right about that.
So, John, I will say to you, those 17 objectives were not just slightly thrown out there.
I'm sure.
And realize as well too, that what you're creating is meant for someone else to be picking up on this.
Yeah.
We certainly are the progenitors of it, but on the other side of the coin, there's gonna be a very different group that's gonna deal within these domains, so maybe they are a little amorphous.
Well, Barry, all I can
But-
say.
Yeah. So I just want you to realize maybe there's a little more to it than that, but the other thing, there's 2 other things I want to bring up.
But
too.
before we leave that though, the objectives, because I heard you. But my point is, anybody who brings more than 6 or 8 objectives to me at any one point in time gets sent back to the drawing board. Give me the top. What are you really gonna do and how are you gonna do it? When you bring 17, I don't know how you get, no. I don't know how you do that.
Thank you. I'm not gonna go round robin with that, but we could. Anyways, so a few things, the whole idea about public outreach, okay? And the fact of, I'm not sure what else to do over, especially as I look at my tenure on things as well. We've tried so many blessed things. We're now more televised than ever by virtue of this going on to Zoom and being available on YouTube. In the past, to try to encourage the public to more dialogue and work with us, especially when we came down to zoning and planning issues, we had coffees, we had sessions with Meet the Planners. Just recently, Judy Barrett, we had her out there and you heard the result of that. So I'd say, for lack of, I don't think we're not trying. I think we are. I think we tried desperately. But when I hear from Judy Barrett, from the Judy Barrett thing, no one showed up. I'm perplexed and puzzled, and it makes me ask, what more can you do? So, and I'm a little more concerned when I hear, oh, things are operating behind closed doors. I'm going to challenge that because we keep trying to do different things. But short of taking someone by the hand and dragging them in, I don't know what else to do. The other thing too is maybe we should reach out to all the regional planning agencies. Leslie sits on MARPA. Okay, I've been to that as well too. But those, it's not like we're operating in a vacuum with the other 12. There's discussions that take place as well as an understanding of how are we similar with certain issues and how are we dissimilar with certain issues, which Nat brought up as well too. So I just felt like there's some of these things that you really need, that at least need to be brought up and talked about. As opposed to them just hanging out there as kind of like, oh, no one responded back to it, so it must be the case. And so I think that's another thing too, is that we also need to be able to respond back much more loudly and adequately as well with these things. And in terms of if you've got better ideas about how to draw in public engagement, as one person, I'm willing to listen. I think you all are. But and again, if you think we need to do, just because we did something a few times and it didn't work, doesn't mean we can't do it again. Sometimes that's just the next new formula. Anything else? Because I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, the motion.
Motion.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's.
No, not me. No.
I would like to make a motion that we schedule a special meeting between now and our next meeting, preferably within the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
So that we can sit down and hash out, just go over, as John said, point by point, and new people before that, and history, before we even start discussion, a history, preferably brought up by or written up by staff of some sort, with just kind of how a little background on each one of the comment or the 17 objectives, and why this one was picked this way and why that one was picked that way, and kind of the history behind it. And then we can have the discussion. And then, but it has to be done. And then after that meeting, we have to finalize it. We have to vote on it, and we can agree to disagree. And there may be things in there that you don't want or I don't want, but there's a final document, but everybody gets an opportunity to re-engage.
Okay.
And do you want to amend or?
No, I was just gonna say, also people that we did put on for reasons, I think, like having the.
Yeah,
Not who's there, but why a board or something.
because
but not
this
there.
current
Yeah.
board has to agree on it so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Do I have a
I'm
second?
sorry.
I second.
Whoa.
Everyone.
That was way too much to understand as a motion at this point.
Okay.
So let's.
So what do you want to?
Let's reduce it down to what are we trying to accomplish? We're gonna have a special meeting in 2 weeks worth of time, right?
Mhm.
There was a lot of dialogue.
So a special meeting
In 2 weeks,
before our next meeting
yeah,
with the history to start.
I wanna go back to that for a second, we'll do that in discussion, go ahead.
And then a final draft that we can all vote on.
See, here's the problem, is that was there anything else, I'm sorry?
Oh, I don't think
Okay, so you're not gonna get a final draft at that next meeting? You're not.
We have to
Because-
Well, no,
decide
what-
what that's
Because
gonna be.
you're gonna have to.
The final draft is gonna be in the next regular meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
To
Yeah.
come up with a final draft.
Come
I
up
think
with a
that's what
final
she
draft.
said.
Okay,
Come up
just
with a
so,
final
just
draft. Yep.
so that we're clear on that.
Yep.
'Cause there's like 2 or 3 things we need to clean up. I think it'll be good.
You were gonna second that now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the motion's made to second discussion. The only thing I'm gonna ask you to do too All right, one is that when you go through the current document that you have,
Mhm.
if you have things that are kind of glaring out there, I would appreciate if you either discuss it with staff directly.
Yeah.
Or you send them an email to them, not a group email.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The history, fine, they're gonna do a synopsis, but what I'm probably gonna ask you to do too, which, you know, for those of you who haven't been here through the entire process, watch the videos, everything's out there. All of this stuff is sitting in YouTube tomorrow. So it's there. So
Good
if you
stuff
really.
spending like
Run out of
the,
popcorn.
Yeah, I mean,
No one's
that's
got time to do that.
I was trying to condense-
Much easier for staff
Yeah.
to give the historical perspective of why
I-
that decision was made.
Yeah.
We
But
can't
what I'm-
expect anyone to try to sift through.
And I think if someone has a question on the history or something, then I think you could email the staff or something like.
yeah,
What specifically this one
Yeah.
chair or something, sorry.
But what I'm saying to you is, in order to really understand what went on, maybe that's where you need to turn to as well too,
well,
because.
the reason for the history is to eliminate questions at the meeting.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, all right, so that's fine, you don't, I'm just offering that.
Yep,
All I'm
I
trying to get is a
fully
met-
understand that that's an option.
Methodology
Thank
under
you.
which to get a much better concept of things, but if y'all don't, want, it's up to you to personally decide one way or another. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
gotta do
No,
it.
you gotta do
Roll
roll
call.
call.
I'm sorry, oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Well, I guess I called on you
First
first on
here.
Wednesday. When did Bert join us?
In the past.
I did.
Hi, Bert.
Hi, Bert.
I
Anyways,
saw Emily get tied up.
just acknowledge that Mr. Johnson joined us approximately 10 minutes ago. I know you'll review the time segment for it at this point. So Wendy, you're in the affirmative, Abby.
I'm sorry.
I'm in the
Aye.
affirmative. Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
thank you. Bert,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Joe. Aye. All right. There we have it. And what else? Is there any other? So you've got committee reports, or if anyone's got anything they want to address, and sometimes.
I will address Rural Policy Advisory Commission. We met last week. What I will say is I'll hold off comments. There was a lot of talk about accessory dwelling units and the farm plan, but I'd like to save that for a little more detail till our next meeting. But I will also add that it's Linda Dunleavy from the Franklin FR COG, Franklin County, whatever, who has been with us before, and I'd love to invite her again, based on our discussion tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I've
Yeah.
submitted revisions of article or chapter 57 and chapter 98 to Ms. Brooke Moore, who's gonna review it and then send it to for the e-bike and all that, for that microbility.
Yeah.
How many hours did that take you, Joe?
I'm gonna hold out. There's no
That's gonna be
billable hours,
going for a
but-
while, that was.
He's trying to write that off on his taxes, I bet.
Joe,
Volunteering.
Charity.
Unbelievable.
I guess my only question is, are you planning on billing the town?
Yes, absolutely.
Good
I
luck.
just got an inbox that said retirement.
Anything else under committee reports? Is there any other business reports?
There.
Abby, please.
Yeah, I just, kind of similar to Wendy, the Affordable Housing Trust, we've been doing we have a couple of things coming up, but I would kind of want to defer to a later meeting when I have it at a position where we can present things publicly, because we've had a couple of executive sessions and we're working on some things, so more to come. That's it.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to gloss over these. I'm trying to be sensitive toward your time. Anyone else on any of the committee reports? Okay. No other business before us? Y'all want to hang out for a while?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I knew someone would pick up on it.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Brooke,
Aye.
Abby,
Aye.
Wendy,
She just.
Wendy to adjourn.
Oh, aye.
Thank you. Bert,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Brett.
Dave, Matt,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye,
Joe. Chair votes in for, thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you, staff.
You guys are the best.
Sorry about all that.